It's been said that luck is the intersection of preparation and opportunity. Welcome to the Australian Hunting Backcountry podcast, where we will focus on all things hunting in the backcountry, not just in Australia, but everywhere that backcountry hunting is possible. My name is Tobias, and if you're a hunter with no backpacking experience, or even an expert, I would like you to join me as we explore gear, places, and technologies, hear lived experiences, different perspectives, and share the passion that people have for a hard-earned backpack hunt. I appreciate you being here with me as I try to increase the knowledge that will bring us better luck in the backcountry. Well, we're now recording the second part of this episode of the podcast. Jason and I are out of the bush, and you can probably hear a bit of road noise in the background from the car, so apologies if that's distracting, but we wanted to record this on the fly while I guess all the events and all of our thoughts were still fresh in our head. Thanks again, Jason, for joining me, and also thanks again for a great trip. Had a really great time, and although to spoiler alert, we didn't end up shooting anything. We didn't see anything further, but that's hunting. That's why it's called hunting. But all in all, Jason, I think you'd echo the comment that it was a great trip and a great experience.
Oh, definitely, mate. It was good just to get back down into Victoria. It'd been quite a few years for both of us, and yeah, just to get back in there chasing the sambar around. Like you say, we didn't pull the trigger, but still had an amazing time. So yeah, thank you as well just for putting up with me, and yeah, a great time.
I guess when we finished the last part of the podcast, the snow had just started. You and I were sitting on the side of a hill in the Alpine National Park underneath a rather small tarp, trying to get some shelter from the weather. And at that stage, we had a big system of weather moving in. We were hoping for a very cold morning the next day, and the hope was that temperature drop was really going to bring the deer out onto those sunny faces. Unfortunately, Jason, you want to fill in the rest from there?
Yeah, well, I suppose when we finished up the last one, it was getting extremely cold, so it was a super cold night for both of us, waking up to a pretty average next day. So yeah, we pretty much put our frozen boots on. All our gear was like frozen solid. It was bloody cold, to be honest, and very miserable, but we got all the gear on and started making our way to what we were hoping to be some productive faces. However, for pretty much the majority of that day, we were clagged in. It was cold, miserable, very minimal, glassing opportunities at all. So we spent a considerable time on the hill, trying to keep warm in some very, trying conditions, I suppose you'd say.
And it wasn't just the temperature. Obviously, it was in the negatives, but the wind chill factor as well. It
was freezing.
I have to say, I think that dropped it at least another 10 degrees.
Yeah.
It was brutal. I think it was about 11 when the fog actually cleared enough for us to actually start seeing.
Yeah.
And the difference was night and day. You know, we were flat out seeing. I think I tried to range using my range finding binoculars, tried to range through the fog just out of curiosity, and it kept bouncing back at 51 metres. So the visibility wasn't even 50 metres, and we're looking at faces that are 2, 3, 4, 500 metres away from the position we were in. So yeah, unfortunately, until about 11 o'clock, and then it cleared,
opened up
like it was never even there.
Yeah.
Sun came out. It was a beautiful day from that point on. However, deer obviously had different ideas to what we did.
Yeah, well, we kind of forecasted, we were hoping that with the very cold snap and then a bit of, that sun poking through, we were targeting those north-facing slopes. We had plenty of country to glass, like huge areas. But the deer weren't playing the game. We weren't able to get eyes on any deer actually for that day, which was surprising. But it's the nature of hunting. We thought we had a great plan in play, but it just didn't materialise and didn't come together, unfortunately.
It was certainly disappointing for us both. I think I can accurately speak for both of us. We had really put our hopes quite heavily on that day, on the weather system as going to be the answer to what we hoped was going to be getting the deer out and about and making them visible. And so it was quite, I think and I think I made the comment to you, I think we actually really set ourselves up for disappointment because we'd put a lot of our eggs into that basket, I guess. The weather conditions were going to be right. We were in the right position, the right time of year, all of that sort of thing. We had, like I said, good faces, good gullies, it really sucked the wind out of our sails.
Yeah, because we kind of thought we had everything in our favour. Now, I'm not sure in hindsight if the deer had pushed down lower with those weather conditions and they hadn't quite managed to feed up yet. I don't really know what the answer was because we had been seeing animals in that kind of country previously before that weather system had come through. So, yeah, I'm still a little bit at odds exactly what the deer were doing, or just for the amount of area we were able to glass was just very surprising to see nothing making the most of those beautiful sunny faces towards the end of that day.
We did stay out until last light that day. We like I said to you, if we were getting paid by the hour for amount of time behind binoculars, we sort of would have been well paid for this trip. Yeah, we gave it everything we could that day, and the next morning we also knew there was going to be some cold weather coming in. Woke up and there was a very good frost on the ground that day, and we thought there was going to be a bit of cloud, a bit of fog around, but that sort of cleared pretty early for us before sunrise anyway. But then on the last day we had another issue.
We did. Unfortunately, we had multiple groups of hikers or school tramping parties come through the area. The area we're actually hunting appears to be quite a main thoroughfare at certain times of the years for different groups coming through. And we managed to, I think, to choose one of the weeks with, that was the go. And we had multiple parties pretty much come right past us.
I'm going to clarify and expand on that a little bit further, and I'm going to say this with all due respect to the young people that we met, but they were groups of young schoolgirls, year 9 I think they were,
yes,
weren't they?
They were.
We spoke to the teachers, and consequently they were very noisy.
That's an understatement, Tobias.
All night and from early in the morning, and they happened to choose to hike past the path where we had set ourselves up that day on a ridge to glass from. And
it wasn't the most common spot. Like, it wasn't, they pretty much come out of their way to go past where we were planning to glass. We're very unlucky on that side of things.
Yeah, and look, obviously we can't say for sure that had an effect on the deer. I'd probably, push towards the fact that it did, but without being able to observe the deer's behaviour, we can't say for certain. But this is public land hunting, so they've got as much a right to be there as we do. We're all stakeholders in the access to public lands, and I'm not being critical at all of them being there at that time. It was just unfortunate for us, I think, that we happened to pick that spot that had the advantage of being very accessible with being near walking tracks and also being excellent glassing country. So on the map, we thought it's a win-win for us because we've got a lot of country to cover, and also it's going to be relatively easy to get into. And I guess that was one of the things in our debrief sort of afterwards about consideration for next time, that perhaps we look at using those tracks to access part of the country, but then really trying to get off the walking tracks from that point on and get into some different areas.
And to be honest, I take my hats off to those groups out there. We were doing it tough with the weather conditions, and they had been camping out in the same conditions. So kudos to those young ladies. Definitely not doing it easy, and it was actually cool just to see young groups like that still, I'm sure the risks associated with taking school groups out like that is pretty high, but it was awesome to see them out there. So yes, it was definitely negative for the hunting aspect, but very cool to see, kids out there having a great time, laughing and scaring all the deer, but still having a great time out there.
Yeah. They're very friendly too. They when they eventually saw us sitting on the edge of the hill, they calling out, "Hi, Mister," and give us a wave and so forth. So yeah, no, it was good to see, and I guess this is the thing with public lands, is that it's there for everyone to use, and it's great to see other people out there using it, for that sort of thing, and getting kids outside and a bit of outdoor sort of therapy, I guess.
Because it wouldn't have been easy a few days for them out there. It was tough. So well done, ladies.
Well, I mean, on that note, one of the notes I've got here to talk about is the mental fortitude required to be out there under those conditions. And you and I sort of, when we're sitting there in the rain and the howling wind and freezing cold and so forth, we look at each other and sort of, give a half-baked smile or something or other, some sort of non-verbal encouragement, because it would have been quite easy for us to just say, bugger this, I'm going back to camp and I'm going to crawl in the sleeping bag and play solitaire on my phone for the next few hours or something or other, rather than sitting there waiting and hoping for the fog to clear.
Because definitely that morale was low at times, so I'm not going to lie, I was there bloody cold, same thing, looking at you, we're both in that mental kind of pain barrier that we're working through to stay out on that hill, just with that moment to hopefully, everything's going to clear up and we get that glassing opportunity. But I suppose in the back of your mind, it's always, once it does clear, what animal's going to be out? That's the kind of thing that drives you. But to keep out and keep persevering is bloody very tough work.
Yeah. I mean, the whole process of the backcountry hunting really does test your mental fortitude, doesn't it? It's not just, it starts back with the preparation of the trip, and when you're sitting there looking at Google Earth, it all looks good because you and I are sitting in our nice warm Queensland home, on our shorts and shirt, and the comfort of the office, looking at the computer going, yeah, that place looks great, and this time of year that'll be nice and cold, that'll be good time for the deer to be out, etc., etc. But then when you're actually there and you've got to make the effort to drive all the way to Victoria or wherever you're going for your hunt, and then put that heavy pack on, shoulder it, and then the uncomfortable part starts, and then after a while the pain starts because your pack's heavy and digging into your hip or pulling on your shoulder or whatever else, and it's always easy to sort of talk yourself out of doing something rather than push yourself through it.
And then I suppose also in addition to that, Tobias and I, we've only hunted one time previous to this. That was on private property up in Queensland, so under very different circumstances. Our first backpacking hunt together. We haven't spent a whole lot of time together, so there's also that dynamic as well. Working out how we both operate. So there was a number of things kind of working through, for this first trip together. So it's Being
put in that sort of environment is a great way to work out whether you like someone or not.
It does. Yeah.
It's certainly even some long-standing friendships. Sometimes some of the backcountry trips they can test that friendship, and I guess you kind of highlights things that, without being unfair, that maybe you find annoying about that person because it's in a concentrated setting. When you're in close proximity all the time, and I mean we had separate tents. I have shared tents with blokes over the years, and that's a really good way to test a friendship. Yeah, little things get amplified in those sort of situations. So something you'd probably tolerate normally, in the backcountry with all the other added stresses going on, it can be very testing. So you've just got to find ways, I guess, to sort of either deal with that or bring it up in conversation with the person if it's something that maybe needs to be addressed before it becomes a major issue, or you just learn to tolerate it.
And I think in review of our trip, I think our dynamics worked well. We had our kind of same mentality of how we wanted to hunt that area overall. I suppose if you have discrepancies on where you want to hunt, that's fine, you can split up, but the majority of the hunting, pretty much all the hunting we did was together. I think our dynamic worked well, Tobias, and it's we're definitely put in some of those situations where you really are pushed, so it was good.
Did you, I know you've talked about the hunting you did in New Zealand, and you spent that 6 months hunting with a mate over there. Did you do much hunting on your own?
During that 6 month trip, or?
No, sorry, in total in the hunting experience you had in New Zealand.
So just when I graduated university, I actually spent 6 weeks solo hunting in the Kaimanawas after Sega Deer, so that was a 6-week solid trip. With food supplies and drop-offs through the bush, so that was a real opportunity, probably just to test my mental fortitude, just being in that kind of isolated kind of location, hunting my way through the country. So I have done a lot of hunting by myself. I usually hunt by myself, to be honest. I am quite a lot of my trips I do are solo. I do like the time alone, and definitely need that right dynamic with the person that I'm going to hunt with. Otherwise, I'm not that interested. So I'm definitely an advocate for solo hunting, and often for my personal kind of mental health and well-being, I often do solo trips a lot.
Yeah, no, I hear you there. I over the years have had to do a lot of solo hunting as well. Some of it by choice, some of it just out of necessity, because the previous occupation I had, I could sometimes only get leave at particular times of the year, and that meant that I needed to be ready to go, and a small window of opportunity to get away from work, get away from the family, and head out for a hunt. And quite often it meant that the hunting partners that I've had over the years, they mightn't have been available and couldn't get away at the time due to their work, their family, that sort of thing. Or at times I just wanted the time on my own, because that time in the bush alone is a good time to reflect and look at yourself from a different perspective, I guess. Listen to those voices in your head and address some of your mental health.
100%. I don't know, I love my solo trips, and people often find it quite unusual that I'm happy to go out on the bush, spend extended time or extended days out there by myself. But for me, I love it. It's not going to change, and definitely part of me. So it's important for my well-being. Yeah.
And look, there is the safety side of things as well with hunting on your own. And there's a lot of technology around nowadays as well that also makes that a heck of a lot safer, and also makes you more accessible. And we'll talk about some of the things we discovered with our inReach and messaging devices. But yeah, I mean, years ago, I know my wife at the time and probably my mother were horrified that I was going off into the bush in the middle of nowhere on my own with no means of communication, and they wanted to know where I was going so that they at least knew where to send the search party should they need to come and find a body.
Yep.
I know that's typical catastrophising of loved ones, but nowadays not so much an issue.
Well, I've only just recently got my inReach device, but previously to that with my fiance, I'd pretty much give her my planned route, where I was heading, and pretty much a time when she'd have to notify emergency services. So I also always carried a PLB on me, but now with the inReach I can kind of have that real-time communication with the fiance, which gives her a bit of peace of mind, plus she knows what I'm up to.
Yeah, there's almost no excuse nowadays for not being contactable, and I know part of the reason it's a double-edged sword, because part of the reason we do go away is so that we're not disturbed, so that we do have that time alone, and we don't have to receive messages about work issues or something else that's going on in the world back home. We get away, get bush to try and leave all that behind and have a reset. But at the same token, it's I guess a little bit, maybe a little bit selfish of us to expect us to be completely uncontactable. You know, loved ones do like knowing that you're still alive and you're still going to come home. I guess this is a good segue into the issues that we had initially with our InReach device. So I have the Garmin InReach Mini, and you've got the Garmin 66i.
Correct. So it's the GPS unit with the inbuilt InReach kind of capabilities.
Yeah. And I also carry a Garmin Rhino 650, which is the GPS and CB radio. And I've had that for many years. 650 is the old model that they've now upgraded and got a much better unit out there, but I just haven't been able to justify the expense of buying a new unit when this one seems to be working still perfectly fine. So the Mini I bought years ago, before they brought out the Mini 2, and what I've discovered, I bought it originally because I was planning a trip to New Zealand, but of course then the world shut down and all the borders got closed and so forth. So it sat there for a couple of years, and in that time they brought out the Mini 2. One of the issues we had when we were at LiquidAntler, we waited until right before we were about to hit the high country to sort out the devices, was communicating between devices. So communicating, I had tested, before I left Brisbane, the communicating to family members via the device. So I'd been able to send my children text messages, which comes up on their phone as a text message. But that relies on them having mobile phone service. The testing that we needed to do was between devices, so between my Mini and the 66i. And Garmin, when you get an account, they give you your own personal address. So it looks like an email address. And the Mini uses the Earthmate app, whereas the 66i uses the
Garmin Explorer, I think it's called.
Garmin Explorer app.
Yeah.
And the two devices can't cross over. So I couldn't link my device with the Explore app, and Jason couldn't link his with the Earthmate. So thankfully at LiquidAntler we still had a bit of mobile phone service, and we were able to do a bit of Google research and work out what the issue was and how to make it work. And so after sending a number of test messages and having to label each one with a number so we knew which app it was coming from and so forth, we were eventually able to get it worked out. But because of the time delay between using a satellite messenger, obviously it's got to head up to the satellite to be processed and then bounce back down. Because of the time delay, we spent quite a bit of time sitting there trying to work that out. So it was a bit of wasted time, and we weren't in a huge rush, but probably something you'd really want to work out before you get to that point. You know, you could do it on the drive down, or one night if you're stopping overnight somewhere, get outside and turn your devices on and sort it out. How do you find the 66i? How long have you had it for?
So I actually just got it. I used it on my second trip in the North Island, and this is only my second trip I've used it. Amazing. Just having the communication with the fiance is huge for her peace of mind. I personally don't actually really use the GPS functionality of it. That was the plan, but I've predominantly just been running with my phone. So I did have it as a backup GPS, marked our campsite and main kind of areas of interest while we were out and about, but it was more, I mainly carry it just for InReach capabilities.
Yep. With your phone, what are you using there?
So in New Zealand, they call it an NZ Topo app, which has all your online topography, super easy to use, and just so handy on your phone. A lot more intuitive than I think than a GPS. It's very easy to mark points. In Australia, I was using the Victorian Explorer Victoria app. It was okay, but nowhere as near as good or as helpful as the one I was using over in New Zealand.
Yeah. I found with that Explore Vic app, they don't have a lot of. It's good to topographical map, but they don't have a lot of the features marked. They don't have tracks, they don't have roads.
You couldn't mark points or anything, just those real basic little things that you'd like to use it for. It just seemed to be a bit limited. There is the hunting ground app, which I have played around with a little bit, but I need to spend a little bit more time and get that dialed in and to see if that's going to kind of bridge that difference or bridge the gap that I need to use my phone. So I think in the Australian space there's still a little bit of room for development or movement, but
I also was using the eventhough maps app, and that has you just download the topographical maps, but it also locates you on the map, so you can mark points and work out where you are and turn the map in different directions and that sort of thing.
And that's what we were predominantly using, wasn't it, to help plan our hunts and work out what areas to target?
It's got a few features as well, like you can mark points and then measure. So a couple of times there we sort of worked out how far it was going to be to walk to a certain point that we wanted the glass from, and give us an idea of timing and that sort of thing. Good features, good usability. But I have seen that the Hunting Grounds app, and I've downloaded it, but I haven't signed up for it, and I just wanted to find out a little bit more about it before I did go through with it. So I'd be keen to learn more about that. That might be something I'll need to reach out to them and see if they're interested in coming on the podcast.
Yeah, definitely. I think it'd be worthwhile, because I think the age of the traditional GPS is definitely dying from what I can see in these apps with what they're offering and just the usability of them. And all you can take your photos, you got your GPS all on the one unit. Makes life very easy.
Yeah, and particularly when it comes to power management as well. You're running like I'm running the Garmin, and I ran that on this trip. I ran that all the time, and I did so because I wanted to capture how many kilometres we covered. Normally I would, in terms of power management, I would turn it on to mark a location, or if there was a track that I wanted to record for some reason, and then turn it off. And you could pretty much do an entire trip on one battery, and I'd always have a second battery there as a backup. If I was hunting with someone else, sometimes we might be using the radio, just to, if we decided to break off and hunt our own areas, you'd have a check-in every now and then, or if you shot a deer or something or other, you give them a call and be able to communicate that way. Having said that, though, it's not a fantastic CB radio. So if you're really relying on communication in that regard, I'd probably recommend looking at a dedicated CB radio. It's a compromise between both. It's a good GPS. It's not a great GPS. It's a good CB. It's not a great CB. So
are they, out of interest, I'm not sure if you know, are they a 5-watt radio or?
They do have a 5-watt radio. You can power it down.
Okay.
The problem is with them though is that when the battery gets below a certain level, it will automatically drop down to 2 watts to conserve the power. Okay. So if you're towards the end of a trip and you've only got 30% battery life left, which is enough to see your trip out, the radio is powered down. So that's one of the downsides to it. But like I said, if you were relying on that as if you needed a CB radio to rely on as communication for whatever reason with your hunting party, definitely better options out there than that. I am referring to the 650. I do know the 750 has upgraded in a number of areas, but some of the reviews I've read is that it's basically the same sort of thing, that the CB is still not the best option in terms of communication in that regard. The reason why we bought that, there was a group of us years ago. It was 4 of us actually. We all bought one, and we all used to hunt together in a big group. So the attraction for the Garmin was that you can poll each other's location and then see on the map where your hunting partners are. So this is the theory behind it and what they advertised it as. So if you were each hunting a different gully, you'd be able to see where you were to make sure that you didn't cross over into your partner's sort of gully, and it was a safety draw card. Unfortunately, what I believe was initially when it was, obviously these products are released for the American market, and on the southern hemisphere we didn't have the satellite coverage to actually effectively enable all of that.
Okay.
So it didn't quite work as advertised when we first got it. So consequently, a few of the guys that had them, they sort of moved on to other devices, I think, because it just didn't quite work out. But
they always have seemed to be very popular in Australia. They never really took off to the extent they have over here in New Zealand for some reason. Very few people seem to be running them. I'm not sure why that was.
Yeah, so obviously worked a lot better in America, and that hemisphere is was at the time covered more by the right satellite network. I think now it's changed, and we now have more satellite coverage. So it could be the feature could be more realistically used nowadays. But yeah, coming back to the power management, if you're if you've got to charge that device or carry a spare battery, that's obviously extra weight. If you've then got to run an inReach, that's obviously, they're only small, I recognise that, but it's still extra weight, and it's again something you may have to charge over the course of the trip. And then your mobile phone, you've got to manage that power and be able to recharge it. And as we found out, the cold weather takes a toll on batteries, which we were aware of before coming into the trip. Did do a bit of sort of risk mitigation in that area, like tucking devices into your sleeping bag at night. But you were going to try and capture some drone footage when we got back to the vehicle.
Yeah. And
your drone was in the car while we were away, and got back, and I think you got 20 seconds of flight time.
Yeah, I put it up, and it was coming back down as quick as it went up. So just that 4 or 5 days in the vehicle, minus degrees Celsius temperature, just drained the battery.
I took 2 power banks with me on this trip. One, normally I would only take one, but I brought 2 because I used the second one to power up the podcast recording equipment. One of them was a Signet, I think it was 8,000 milliamp hour, and it also came with fold-out solar panels on it. So I was keen to test that out to see how it would work. I left it in the tent, and the first time I used it, I was able to charge something for about an hour. Next night, came to use it, plugged it in, gone. Just came up flashing, had 0. So that was in the tent. It was out in the open. I didn't wrap it in my sleeping bag or anything. But, that cold weather, that was right over that real cold period we had. So that obviously took its toll on that power bank. However, the other power bank that I have was the Poseidon Dark Energy power bank, and that ran flawlessly. I was able to charge over a couple of nights, even on the last night, charge my phone up again. So,
how many milliamps was that one?
I think that's in the vicinity of the 8,000 again, or around 10,000. But it's advertised and clearly designed to be used outdoors. So I think they actually have, it has a quite hard shell around it, so it's impact resistant, and I think they have actually built some sort of insulation in around it to withstand, at least hold up a little bit longer in those colder temps. From memory, I got that from Survival Supplies Australia. I think they were one of the importers into Australia for that product. So yeah, really happy with the Poseidon energy bank.
I took one power bank, and with me it's 20,000 milliamp. I think it's a Signet as well, and overall I found it fine. I didn't insulate it, I just kept it in my tent, and I kind of got the expected charge out of it that I have on previous trips, so it worked, overall.
Yeah. And what were you charging?
Predominantly my phone and a little bit of camera gear.
Yeah. So in terms of the the devices and so forth, the phones really sort of are I would say almost essentially at the stage now where they can replace probably at least 2 or 3 of the bits of gear that we're carrying. Where we were, we found out that we had cell service, we had mobile phone service. That was probably bouncing off the ski fields.
Yeah, it was better reception than what I have at home, so I was very impressed.
Yeah, actually I was quite annoyed because I often have trouble getting a phone call out when I'm sitting on the ground floor of my house, and here we are at the top of Mount Howard, and we're able to video call people. So we didn't use the inReaches as much as we thought we were going to, because we were actually able to communicate a lot of the time via text message, and even between you and I, when you were sitting out on a knob sort of glassing and you had a deer below you, we were able to message each other and communicate that fact without having to sort of yell to each other and obviously alert the deer or run the risk of that.
I also noticed that while we're in the bush, Apple have announced that with their iPhone 14s that they have enabled the satellite technology that allows you to communicate or contact emergency services. So I see that as a feature that has been running in America since the release of the iPhone 14, but that has now been rolled out across Australia and New Zealand. Okay. I don't really know the full detail about how it works, but it is a satellite system that does does allow you to contact emergency services, which if you do have an iPhone 14, I suppose that's going to be a very handy feature if you are out in the backcountry.
Yeah, well that's definitely something worth looking into as well, because again that may eliminate another bit of gear that you're going to carry in. The Garmin's obviously run on a subscription service as well, so you need to pay a yearly access fee for it, and then you buy a plan, and it's very similar to the very early mobile phone plans where you got so many messages included, and anything outside of that you had to pay extra for. I don't believe that they have a rollover feature on those plans. So the plan that I bought, and I think you got the same one.
The same one, yes.
Gave you up to 40 messages for the month.
For around $50, I think it is.
Yeah.
55, 50, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. And then I think the yearly access fee was about another $59, something like that. So, for a bit over $100, it's a good peace of mind. But I think I probably would like to see that, that ability to do like they do with the data rollover on your mobile phone. If you don't use the 40 of them, why can't they hold them over and put them in reserve for next time?
And it is on a month-to-month basis, so if you're not using it, you can just pause your subscription and then reactivate if you've got a trip coming up in a couple of months' time. Book it in, and then you're good to go again.
Yeah, well, there's the two options. You can do it month by month, and you can cancel at any time. So you can just buy 1 month, set it up, then put it on pause until the next trip. So if you've only got 2 trips for the year, you set it up for the first month, and put it on pause, and then activate it again for the second month. Or you do it yearly, and it works out to be cheaper to do it yearly. Not cheaper per se, but rather than doing it month to month, it works out cheaper. So if you were fairly active and going to be using it all the time, that would probably be the ideal solution for you. I think as this other technology comes on board, like you were saying with the Apple 14, that might sort of force their hand a little bit to be a bit more
That's what I'm thinking.
Flexible in their plans and allow that rollover or reduce the price or whatever. I wouldn't have, even knowing what I know now, if we were going to go back there next week, I would still keep my inReach active, because there would no doubt be places up there where the mobile phone just wouldn't get service and wouldn't work. So that's definitely a contingency that I still want to have in my pocket. Are
you also running a PLB in your pack or not?
No, I'm not. Yeah. I'm just using just going to rely on the SOS function on the inReach should I need to. That has been something I've considered running as well, because I know that there's advantages to both. Probably for me, it's come down to a cost factor. Paying for the inReach, then can't really stretch the budget to include a PLB as well.
See, for me personally, I wouldn't leave without my PLB. I'd rather have my PLB with me. My basis on that is I have heard issues with the inReach technology at times, just locating or really defining the area that the person who's in distress is located. So, which I don't believe is such an issue with the other dedicated PLB.
Yeah. My understanding is they run on a completely different satellite network, and obviously the PLB is very because it's emergency based and not just for communication. It's going to be more accurate. Do you carry the PLB on your jet ski?
Yes, I do.
As well?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And there's this is probably something I need to do a bit of research into. And actually, at the Wild Deer Expo, I did speak to the people from the satellite shop. Had a bit of a chat to them about coming on the podcast too, and that was something that they were interested in, and maybe this is something we can explore with them in a lot more detail about the differences between them, because I'm aware that there's different types of PLBs too. Some are more geared towards maritime use, and some are sort of more of a universal.
Yeah, I just have one of those very lightweight hiking probably purposed designs, very small, weighs nothing, and with a 10-year battery built into it.
Yeah. I know there's always new technology coming out. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next few years in terms of what technology is going to be available for us. I know you and I sort of joked about the thermals being used as well, and how that's being perceived at the moment. And years ago when scopes came out, telescopic scopes came out and started becoming popular, there was a lot of controversy around that being an unfair advantage and that sort of thing, because people were used to shooting over iron sights. However, now it's just an accepted norm. If you buy a rifle, it would be unusual to actually find one with iron sights. You buy one, and the next thing you do is put a scope on it. So perhaps thermals may become a more accepted technology in the future, but who knows?
It's definitely an interesting space, and the exhibitors at the Wild Expo seem to be very busy with the old thermal scopes. So I definitely noticed they had a fair few punters around them.
Yeah, we did have an interesting conversation with a hunter that we know down this area who's made some comments around how thermals are being used, and it's probably not something we'll get into too much more now, but there's definitely two camps. It's either those that are dead against it, or those that are obviously happy to use it. All right, on this segment of Friends of the Podcast, I'm joined with Ross from High Caliber. Ross, give us a quick introduction about yourself and your business.
Obviously, my name's Ross, and I'm the owner-director of High Caliber Cleaning Supplies. We manufacture premium quality firearm oils for cleaners, tools for the more discerning hunter, the guy that wants the best product that they can get their hands on. Business has been going quite a few years now. There's thousands of our bottles on the market, and of course, I'm an avid hunter and outdoorsman myself.
That's good. Good to hear. I like hearing when people out there doing hunting are actually making the products themselves, so you know that they're well and truly field tested.
That's it.
Ross, I've been using your premium firearm and tool oil for a few years now on my rifles. So I bought a kit from you a little while ago, and it came with a mat and a cloth and the oil. So I'm well versed in that, but I do see on your website you've got quite a few other products available as well. So do you want to tell us about a few of those as well?
Yeah, well, of course, probably one of the products we're most proud of is definitely that firearm and tool oil. That is our own blend. That is our own product. You can only get it from us. Pore cleaner, that's a new product for us that's been going really, really well. pH neutral kind of citrus oil scented heavy duty multi-purpose cleaner that you actually dilute with water if you want to. So it's a really interesting product in the market. We could have diluted it and then bottled it, but we just thought we'd give the customer the best value possible. And yeah, that's been a real hit. And everyone that's bought it absolutely loves it, and they use it for so many things. Like some guys, they take a bottle of it in their ute. They go away hunting and fishing, and when they get back home, they chuck a little bit in their pressure washer and clean the boat and the car down with it, as well as their rifles and fishing gear and everything else. So it really is a multi-purpose product.
Yeah. I must say that I was intrigued, I guess, to read about the ball cleaner because it's citrus based and you have to water it down. For years, we were led to believe that the best way to clean your rifle bore was with these incredibly toxic, harsh chemicals. Sweet 7.62 was one that I used for many years, and the smell of it was beyond offensive. So how does that bore cleaner work? I guess without giving away secrets, how does it actually do the job when compared to a harsher chemical like the traditional cleaners?
Well, yeah, at a molecular level, it bonds hydrocarbons to water, basically. So water is the vessel that removes the hydrocarbons, the carbon deposits, the oils. So it will remove everything. It will remove our oil, which is a hydrocarbon in itself. And basically, the water is the vessel that washes it away. So that's basically how it works in a nutshell. But yeah, basically, at a scientific level, it bonds molecules together. So it will, bond your carbon deposits and everything else to water. And then obviously, if you're going to clean that out, remove it all, it's just going to stick to a patch. It doesn't dissolve copper. It doesn't have that chemical reaction where it turns green with copper. It's not a copper solvent. But it will remove loose copper flecks, stuff like that. But when you've got fused on copper to the side of the barrel, the bore, it's not going to dissolve and bubble up and create that chemical reaction there. But it will remove absolutely everything from that barrel, whether it be carbon, oil, mud, blood, whatever it is, it will remove.
Okay. So if you had a lot of copper fouling in the bore, you might have to look at another cleaner as well as the high caliber.
Yeah, absolutely. And that stuff is not necessarily good for your barrel. So I wouldn't recommend cleaning 100% of the time with like a copper solvent. And it only really does have that chemical reaction with copper turns green. You can see that reaction there. And it's only really designed to remove copper, which is something that you're not going to be doing very often. You might do it after 100 rounds or something like that, 50 rounds, say, where you want to be cleaning your rifle probably every 3 to 6 rounds.
Yep. All right. And looking at your website, you have got quite a few other things there, a bit of logo gear, and interesting. I think these might have been a new edition. I see they've sold out. The Rob Herbert's helium blades there, branded in high caliber.
Yeah, so they were really good, actually. They sold out within probably 24 hours of us getting them. Really, he's done a really good job. His bits look really good. Our logo on there looks really good. I think I chose the black paracord handle with the orange sheath. So it was a really good combo, actually. And I did ask Rob if we could maybe get another run for Christmas this year. We'll see how we go. But yeah, a few things have sold out. We got a run of brass bore, jags and patch holders made up out of really high quality brass. But yeah, they shifted pretty quick, and it took me a long time to get those. So they're in the pipeline again. But we've got lots of bore snakes, which is another relatively new product for us in the kind of tools category on the website.
Yep.
Great for someone that wants to start cleaning their rifle but doesn't want to damage anything but does want to keep things clean. They can use that at home just to get the hang of starting to clean rifles and start, your very first entry level into gunsmithing. And then also perfect for field use.
Yep.
And that's its probably main purpose, would be out in the field, something super lightweight, packs down super small, gives you the ability to clean a foul barrel in the bush.
I guess that was that was the next thing I was going to lead into, and the one that interested me was something like that would be very useful in the backcountry. I imagine it's super light. It's compacts down, like you say, would be no problem to carry it. Just for that occasion that you may, drop your rifle, get some, get a bit of mud in it, drop it in the creek when you're crossing. I've been on a trip where a mate did that. He went for a swim with his rifle and pack. So something like that would be good to just run a quick pull through, clean it out, make sure there's no obstructions, and be able to keep going.
Yep.
That is only in the 30 cal. So
I think we've done a bit of a poll on, what is it? I'll just tell you. Yeah, so 30 cal, 3008, 3006, 300, and 7.62 is the calibers that it's really designed for. It is going to fit a huge array of different sized calibers, being the nature of how it's used. But I think most people, especially in Victoria, are probably hunting with some sort of 30 caliber rifle, whether it be 3006 or 308 or 300 Win Mag, 300 PCR, whatever that may be. So we decided to go with that. And if there's a lot more demand for smaller or bigger bore snakes, it's definitely something we could look at into producing.
All right, yep.
You want it to be tight in there. You want it to have like no air gaps and be really hard to pull through. And because you're getting really good tolerances and you're going to clean everything out. So if they're cheap, and if you wanted to take a punt on it, you've got a 308 or whatever, and you want to give it a go, by all means. But yeah, it probably is something we're looking at adding in the future. Okay,
yeah. So I guess if enough people, as you said, show interest, if the 270 or 280 listeners out there really want it, then reach out to you and start putting the pressure on.
Yeah, absolutely. And the same thing happened with our bore guides.
Yep.
So the bore guides were only offered in kind of 30 caliber sizes. They fit quite a few different calibers, but we offered a smaller one as well for like 22, 250 and stuff like that. And they've been a really good seller as well. So if you are wanting a bore guide or bore snake for a different caliber, send us a message and we'll see what we can rustle up.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Ross, you've certainly got a lot there on the website to look at. Do you want to give us the website address and the best way to someone to contact you if they've got any questions?
Yeah, so it's highcaliber.com.au is the website, so www.highcaliber.com.au. Our email is info@highcaliber.com.au, and there is a live chat function on the website, and our email address is on the website. There's also Instagram, Facebook. We do monitor all those as well. Mm-hmm. So a few ways to reach out. But yeah, all of that information's on our website.
All right, great. It's the Instagram handle is High Caliber Cleaning Supplies, all one word.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. All right, Ross, thanks again for your time.
No problem, anytime.
A couple of issues I think that we obviously I've experienced on previous trips, and you yourself, Jason, the first one being hydration. When it's very cold like that, it's very difficult to stay hydrated, and you and I both noted on a couple of occasions there that at the end of the day we were feeling very dehydrated. Trying to encourage yourself to drink ice cold water is hard, and you're still, it's in Queensland, obviously, it's very obvious. You're hot, you're sweating a lot, you get thirsty straight away, so you've got to keep on top of your hydration. In those sort of conditions, you don't notice you're sweating as much, but you are still sweating because you're still physically exerting yourself quite a lot. It's just that the sweat isn't as obvious, and you're obviously losing a lot of moisture through your breath as well.
Yeah, I know for a fact I didn't drink enough water on this trip. I drank very little, to be honest, and I was definitely feeling it on the walk out. Probably just a lack of food and a lack of water. I could tell my body wasn't 100, and definitely I put it down to dehydration. Just not drinking enough each day, and often my bladder was a bit frozen. It wasn't that easy to get water out of, so I just didn't really drink that much. And yeah, you definitely feel the effects of it.
The water bladder inside my pack and the hose freezing was an issue for me. Normally I would blow my hose out and get all the water out of it, so there's nothing in there to freeze, and I forgot to do it one night before going to bed. Woke up the next morning, and there was no point in sucking on it because nothing was going to come out.
Solid, yeah.
So then I had to resort back to using water bottles that I'd carry, which because of the temperatures would also ice up. It was almost like having a slushie.
It was.
Yeah.
The slushie we didn't want.
Yes, I had a big drink at one point and gave myself an ice cream headache. One of the tricks that I've sort of picked up over the years is with my food is to make sure I have a lot of salty food to eat during the day, and that way, after you eat, obviously then you feel encouraged to drink, and that sort of prompts you to keep drinking. Every time you have a snack, you feel like drinking afterwards. And also putting some sort of hydration or electrolyte mix in your drink as well. And sometimes you've got to, if you're using a water bottle, you might have to sort of warm up 500 mils of the bottle, if you've got, obviously, managing your gas and so forth, but that often helps as well, so that it kind of almost brings it back to room temperature or less than freezing anyway, and it's a bit easier to drink and a bit easier to consume more of it, because it's not either causing you a headache or stomach cramps. That's another issue with drinking super cold water, is it causes the muscles in your stomach to actually cramp sometimes.
And I saw that you were kind of forcing yourself to have an electrolyte, supplement with some water in the evenings, which is a good idea. I think I should have done the same, just to make, dedicate yourself. Yep, I've got to drink this before I go to bed, and just try and rehydrate myself.
Yeah. And other than that, I'd be certainly more than happy to hear from anyone about any tips or tricks they've got about staying hydrated in the backcountry, because it's definitely there's definitely a trick to it, and it's something you've got to be mindful of and keep on top of, because, like you said, if you're not hydrated, your body's not performing as it should. You're not absorbing the nutrients from the food that you're eating properly, and you're only gonna suffer. That's when you start getting in that slump of being in a calorie deficit and being dehydrated, and that's when things start happening. You start dragging your feet. Next thing they're getting caught on rocks and
just that mental
over.
fog, don't you? You kind of get that mental fog, which starts, just clouding your judgment a little bit, and it's probably not making the normal decisions you would if you were on top of your game.
Yeah, and it comes back to that, linking into that mental fortitude as well. If you're feeling in that slump, you're not keen to stay out there. You put up with those foul conditions.
Yeah.
And
you're questioning yourself: what am I doing? Why am I here? What's going on?
Yeah, that's right. And then you start looking for excuses to bug out early, and next thing I know myself, I've done that on previous trips. I've walked out a day or two early, and just haven't been able to sort of overcome that slump you get into. So you go, bugger it, I'm going home. And every time on the drive home, I've regretted it.
Why?
Yeah, exactly. Why did I do that?
I know that feeling.
I've wasted this opportunity, and you get angry with yourself. So, so anything you can do, and any tips that anybody's got to help keep you in the right frame of mind and in the backcountry for longer, I'd certainly be interested to hear about. So the bladder freezing, obviously an issue. Good trick there is to put your water in your tent, keep it up off the ground, because obviously there's the temperature comes up from the ground, or to put it in your sleeping bag, and make sure the lid's on nice and tight, and have have had a bladder leak on me once in the sleeping bag, which created a very uncomfortable cold wet spot.
That would not be nice.
Yeah. So put that lid on properly, keep it in your sleeping bag, and your body heat will keep it warm and usable for you the next day.
And just on water, I suppose there's an opportunity just to talk about the water filtration and what we did on the trip and where we sourced our water from. The majority of the time we were able to source from a creek. There was a creek that was running relatively well. And not the most easiest spot from camp, but we did do a run there one evening and managed to fill up the majority of our water bottles. Tobias did have a number of kind of collapsible water containers that were super handy for loading up with water and getting them back to camp. And then Tobias, what was the filtration system that you were running?
So I had a Sawyer filter. So I had 2 Sawyer filters actually. One which was supposed to go with a squeeze bladder. So you get a plastic bladder, attach the filter to it, and it has a little hose connector on the end, and you just apply pressure and it forces the water through the physical filter. And I also had another larger bladder. I think it's about a 8-litre bladder. It's designed obviously for groups and camp, with a filter on it and a tube that you then attach to like a platypus bottle that it filters into, and that's just simply gravity fed. So you hang it up in the tree, fill the big bladder up, and it'll just dribble through the filter. I also carry a SteriPen, the UV light treatment, with me, because sometimes if you've got good flowing water and it's not full of bits and pieces, just a simple sterilisation, a minute with the SteriPen will suffice for purifying the water. But for something that does have maybe some bits and pieces in it, or some stagnant water, then the physical filter is a much better option. I like to carry both of them because I guess it's that risk mitigation again as well, that if one does fail, which we discovered, then you've at least got that other one there as a backup, and hopefully you can use it. I do know some people also carry the tablets, and you can get some drops apparently that also purify the water. However, I found that those put a flavour in the water, a chemically sort of flavour. So I've never been keen on using those too much.
To be honest, in my time, I haven't actually ever used a filtration system before. I've kind of run the gauntlet, and luckily I've got away with it. But probably in hindsight, it's definitely something I need to pick up my game. In New Zealand, the concern, I don't know, I know some people that have definitely got sick from the water they've drunk. But yeah, it's definitely something I'll be looking at adding to my kit. Probably the gravity-fed one, I thought. Tobias was a nice, simple, easy way to go.
Yeah, it is. You can get simpler, you can get smaller bags. You don't need to use such a big bag. That was just part of the kit that I bought, and because there was going to be 3 of us coming away on the trip, I was going to bring that so that we could have water for everyone. Excuse me. There's very little weight penalty in that anyway, so it's definitely worth carrying. And it's a set and forget sort of thing. You fill the bladder, attach the other bladder, the clean bladder on the other end, and walk away, do something else, make your dinner, come back, and then you've got 2 or 3 litres of water. The other source we were getting it from, we found some pools right up the top on a flat portion, and we did get some of the water from there. So that was a good example. Like you said, the flowing creek that we found, even though it was a bit of an effort to get to it, that sort of water, because of where we were, because we weren't below the ski fields, or it really was coming from a couple of 100 metres away basically, and just making its way through the bedrock and coming out at that point there. There was very little risk. However, if you're down in the lower parts, below the ski fields, or below other sort of civilization, then obviously there is that risk of being a bacteria or some sort of bug in the water, and that's where it's really important to filter your water. I have had Giardia before from a different trip.
Yeah, sure.
Giardia does take several days to come through your system, so normally it doesn't hit you until you know, at the end of your trip or after it. But it is still an unpleasant experience. There are some bugs around that do act a lot quicker than Giardia and a more severe reaction to your body, and those are definitely the ones you don't want to get on a trip, because then you've got it coming out both holes and
not what you want.
Not what you want. Not what you want at all.
Yeah.
So I like to carry the two options there for water filtration, and I also carry a life straw as well.
Oh yeah, I've seen those as well.
Yeah, and I do remember Robbo from
Bolt Action Productions.
The Bolt Action, thank you.
Yeah.
That's him. Yeah, he on one of his videos he carries a life straw, and when he comes across a puddle of water, he'll use the life straw to have a drink as he's going, rather than taking it out of his bladder, just to keep that water in reserve and use what he has access to. So I thought that was a really good tip, good idea. I didn't put it into practice on this trip, but I do carry a life straw with me as well for that I guess final fail safe. But if everything else fails on me, then I can at least if I get desperate, I guess suck it out of a stinky old wallow or something.
Well, that would have been very handy at a hunt at the start of the year where I was hunting goats with a bow. I actually ran out of water, just totally underestimated it, and there were a few puddles that I did come across, and if I had a life straw, I definitely would have made the most of it, because by the end of that day, I was severely dehydrated, and yeah, it was not in a good way. So
I remember your I think we just took a wrong turn.
Yeah, we did. Shit, I'll spin it around.
That's all right. We just added another 12 hours onto our trip, mate. We're heading back to Sydney. I do remember that vid, and you coming back to camp and recording the part of it that you were a ball of sweat and not looking the best. Not your finest moment on camera, mate.
I wasn't in a good way.
Other than the filtration, the other thing that surprised us was the gas, the amount of gas that we went through, and the difficulties that we had. Now, I had two MSR isobutane gas canisters, and I run the Soto Windmaster stove and some titanium pots. And on one day there, we did have to melt some ice to get some water, so we used up a bit of gas on that. But two canisters is normally more than enough for a 5-day trip. What we found early in the, not even early in the morning, at any time, the canisters were freezing up. And so what we'd do is heat up a bit of water to start with, pour that over the canister to unfreeze it, and it would fire back up again, and then we'd boil the necessary water for the coffee or hot chocolate or dinners. Yeah, on the last morning, we actually couldn't make a cup of coffee because we'd run out of gas. And I'm not sure why we use so much gas when we really weren't doing anywhere near the amount of cooking that I thought we would.
I think it's a few factors. We definitely had the cooler conditions, so we were often warming up, slushy water at one stage. There's also quite a bit of wind that we were dealing with at times, so we were maybe that controlled heat of the burner. It was getting just affected by the wind a fair bit, so it wasn't getting the full heat. But I was still very surprised at how quickly we went through that gas.
So we did. We the last couple of days we were carrying the gas bottles around under our jumpers, and had them in my sleeping bag at night. Whether the answer to that is you taking some bigger canisters instead, or taking another canister, or some other form of managing that gas?
I would be interested to compare a jet boil system. I know you went for the system that you have because it does give you the opportunity to make a fire and heat water with the titanium cook kit or the kit you've got. But it would have been quite interesting to compare against like a jet boil, which is quite an efficient way to bring the temperature up of the water. Yeah, in comparison.
Yeah. The other option that we discussed as well is going to a more dedicated cold weather stove system, like a solid fuel stove. Or when I say solid fuel, I mean like a white spirit based stove. Something like the MSR. I can't remember the model off the top of my head.
They're quite a bulky unit. By the time you have the actual container for the fuel and priming it up, I have used them a couple of times. They are quite. Some people swear by them. I found them quite painful to cook with, but in those cooler temperatures, they do make life a lot easier.
Yeah, I think that reliability is really what sells them. You do have a bit of a weight penalty, obviously, but yeah, quite often you'll see YouTube videos. I watch a lot of Alaska hunting YouTube videos, and quite often you'll see the guides using that particular make of stove. I guess the reliability and it's
and a bit of necessity over there where it's just too cold to have what we've been using.
Yeah, and I guess if you were doing a bit of hunting overseas too, while the jet boil type canisters are available pretty much anywhere, flying with them would obviously be an issue. So if we were to go to New Zealand, you wouldn't be able to take them with you. You'd have to source them over there as soon as you hit the ground. Whereas with a liquid fuel, I'm not sure how you go flying with that.
No, I'd still think you wouldn't be able to fly with it. And to be honest, the canisters are so, for a trip to New Zealand, it's so easy to be able to source those. Yeah. It's probably going to be easier than sourcing your spirits, to be honest.
Yeah, okay.
Just with all the camping or hunting and fishing shops are dealing or stocking those.
Yeah. But anyway, if anybody's got any suggestions about the fuel management for those canisters, I'd be more than happy to hear from you. I guess one failing we had, if we could class it that, you had a set of gloves that you did not like.
Yes, so I purchased after recommendations. I put it up on a few pages, and I was looking for a good outer glove, so I was running merino inners, and I was wanting something just to seal myself off for the weather, especially with your hands. So I knew we're going to be doing a lot of glassing. The first thing they're going to get cold are your feet and your hands. So if you're glassing, you can't keep your hands warm. You're going to lose concentration, you're going to lose focus, and the bino is going to end up back in the pouch while you rub your hands to try and get them warm. So I ended up going with what I think they're sealskin gloves, which have been recommended. They were kind of a mixture of Gore-Tex, a little bit of canvas, fully waterproof. But for me, they were terrible. I don't know what the go was. I was running some cheap merino ones, which were good. They got wet and then frozen. I tried using the sealskin both with the merino in, with the merino out, and there was just, I know they weren't, they're not designed as like a really insulating glove, but I actually found they were colder. My hands got colder with them on than with, which just blew my mind. So I ended up ditching those gloves and using socks for most of the time, which was a bit of a running joke, but I had socks on my hands because these sealskins were so awful. I just couldn't wear them. So if anyone's after a cheap pair of, free pair of sealskins, hit me up and they're yours.
Cover the cost of postage and they're yours. And they did look the deal, like they had the removable fingertips on your forefinger and thumb, so you could still retain that dexterity and then fold it back over. And you said,
and then even the sizing, the XL gloves, my hands aren't the hugest or the largest, but even as XL without any kind of other gloves on, they're still tight and just no, not a fan. So they got a big cross from me.
And did you get those in New Zealand or Australia?
No, I got them from Australia. I purchased them. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Around $100, and I was told they were the bee's knees, and someone can have them.
Yeah, for $100 you'd want better performance than that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, so very disappointed with those. So I'm back to the drawing board. If anyone out there has some good glove recommendations, definitely if you've been glassing for a long time in a cold environment, you know how important it is to have a decent set of gloves that are going to keep your hands warm and dry.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear people's suggestions.
What were you running, Tobias?
I've spoken about before the rag wool.
That's right. Yes.
Fingerless gloves. Obviously in the wind and so forth, that are no good. But in terms of a compromise between keeping your hands warm and still retaining that dexterity, so you can do things like undo buckles and do up shoelaces and so forth, they were good. But when it came time for glassing, I have a set of QU gloves, and they have a leather palm and a little bit of insulation, a little bit of synthetic insulation, and I bought them a larger size, and I use a set of merino lining gloves underneath, that just Kathmandu merino gloves underneath, and they were pretty good for most of the time, most of the weather. If it had been any colder, they probably wouldn't have been good enough. I do have another set of gloves at home that I've had for years that were some First Light mitts, and they actually have a lamb's wool liner in them, and then a waterproof outer, but they're a mitt, so you lose a lot of functionality. But if you're just hanging on to a set of binoculars,
probably quite a good option there.
Yeah, they were quite good. I didn't bring them on this trip because I just wanted to run the QU, but it's kind of do I bring them or don't I bring them? Because they're not light. They're not the lightest, obviously being wool and so forth, and being quite thick. I got away with just the QU, and then having to put my hand between my legs every now and then to try and warm it up.
Yeah.
I did see actually at the Wild Deer Expo, the Mansfield Hunting and Fishing display, they've obviously got Stone Glacier, and big thanks to Mel and the team there, because they hooked me up with my pack and accessories for the trip. And Stone Glacier have got a new glove out, and it's actually got a synthetic insulated liner that's removable from the glove. So you've got the weatherproof outer shell with a big long cuff on it, and then the inner. So you can either use the inner on its own, or you can use it in combination with the outer, or you can use the outer on its own. So I was tempted to buy a set of them before the trip, just to test them out, but again, couldn't really justify it when I had a perfect good set of gloves that I thought were going to do the trick. But they were something that would definitely interest me if I was looking for another set of gloves now for that purpose. That would definitely be something I'd be keen to try out.
They did look like a great pair of gloves. The one thing I've always found with gloves is they're fine while it's cold and dry, but as soon as you get that rain and they get wet, that's when the issues really surface. So yeah, I've really struggled to find a good outer that is fully waterproof and doesn't get that kind of water ingress, and then you're dealt with like a heavy kind of wet rag on your hand. So if anyone does, have a bit of a setup that they find works, I'd definitely be interested to hear, because I still really need to get this glove system dialed in just to maximise that glassing time.
Yeah, I do think Sitka actually produce a really well designed glove for those sort of conditions.
Okay.
I think the outer's waterproof, and again it's got a synthetic insulation in it. I can't tell you the model off the top of my head, but Sitka could be a good option for that sort of thing. I know I talk about QU quite a bit, but like I've said to you, I just find their gear works, so I like it. But I do know QU have got a couple of options as well. So there's certainly a few brands out there, but obviously there's maybe other types of sealskin gloves that might work and might be able to appease Jason.
Don't know. I think they're dead to me.
So yeah, any suggestions? please give us a shout out. In terms of other clothing as well, not just with gloves, but the layering system that you are using to keep yourself warm under those conditions. Do you have any recommendations from the gear that you were running?
No, so if you've seen my videos and bits and pieces, I run a pretty simplistic setup. I'm running the long johns with shorts, and I wouldn't have changed that for that trip. I was actually fine with the my legs and that wide. That was a fine setup to run. The upper, I was running a variety of. So my bottom layer was just a merino, thermal long sleeve shirt with a couple of Huntek layers with a MacPack down puffer jacket. And then just a couple, like a rain jacket on top of that. Yeah, overall, very basic setup, and then a nice merino beanie, which kept my head warm. The one thing I probably would have improved in hindsight would be the socks I was operating in. I am running some Kathmandu. I'm not exactly sure of the model, but they probably weren't the warmest for the conditions we experienced. And yeah, definitely my feet, or especially my toes, were struggling over those really cold days.
Did you? Now you forgot your gaiters, which you've previously mentioned.
Yes.
So that obviously allowed a bit of water and ice into your boots. Was that a complicating factor for the?
Yeah, because we didn't do any creek crossings or anything like that on our trip, but pretty much my boots were wet. Because I didn't have those gaiters to really seal it off. I had ice, I had snow getting flicked up straight down there, all the water pushing through the scrub was just migrating its way down through the socks, and my feet were just wet the whole time. And then adding with that, with the sub-zero temperatures, it was all starting to freeze, and yeah, it was definitely a bit of an issue. So I don't even know if I think I might even have a little bit of frostbite on one of my toes, to be honest. It's I've got a little bit of nerve damage or something going on in my little toe.
Yeah, we're both experiencing some funny symptoms. We did a bit of Googling last night, and we think we might have a bit of frost nip, which is the early stages of frostbite. I've got a bit of numbness in some tips of my fingers, and Jason's got it in some toes. So nothing's gone black and fallen off yet, so I think we're okay, but interesting to see how that develops. If you had had those gaiters, do you think the socks then would have been an issue, or do you think that's because keeping your feet and hands cold is obviously very difficult? Keeping them warm in those cold conditions is very difficult because there's not a lot of blood that's flowing to those areas.
I think even with my gaiters, I needed to upgrade my socks. They're a very comfy sock, but I don't think they're the best for the insulating properties. So I think definitely I needed to up my game there. I didn't think it was going to be as cold as it was, and there's definitely room for a bit of an up. At least that one pair of really decent insulated socks that I could have been running. But then I was also having problems which I previously discussed in the evenings, just in the sleeping bag, keeping my feet warm as well. So definitely need a better pair of insulated socks.
I have seen some guys running a waterproof sock.
Yes, I've seen that as well.
Yeah, and Bushbuck, I think, makes some, as well as some other companies out there, but Bushbuck are just the first one that come to mind because they're a New Zealand company. And that the long johns and shorts is a Kiwi trait for sure. We chatted about this a bit. I can't do it. I have to wear pants. I can't.
And I'm the opposite. I can't wear pants.
I really like, and I think the Kuyu Pro pants were perfect for that sort of hunting and those conditions. They've got a knee pad on them, sewn into them. They've got the side vents so you can let go of some heat when you're exerting yourself. They're a good thickness. They're nice and soft. They're flexible. I just find for me the Kuyu pants fit me really well. So in those pants I actually have gone up a size. So I would normally take a 34, and I have a 30. I wear a 36 in the Pro pant so that I can layer up underneath. So I use their 3/4 length zip-off long johns underneath, and with the added thickness around the waistband. The 34 was just a little bit too snug, so I've gone for the 36, and gives me plenty of freedom, you know. And then in terms of socks as well, I use the Kathmandu socks. I think they were the New Yarn.
Yes, that's the ones.
Hiker socks.
Yes, that's the ones. Yep.
And I also run a set of Injinjin toed liner socks underneath. So the ones I was using on this trip were the Coolmax ones, the synthetic. Just a thin liner, just to help with blister management as well as a little bit more insulation. In hindsight, I probably should have run the merino ones, just to give me a little bit more warmth. But I was also just trialling these out in terms of moisture management as well, and getting that moisture away from my foot, because your feet do sweat. Some people sweat quite a bit through their feet. Getting it out away from my foot into the outer sock, and then trying to get it out of the boot. I only had one day there where I was really conscious of having wet socks. Other than that, it really wasn't too much of an issue for me, and
your feet hold up okay?
They were okay, yeah. I mean, obviously in the morning they were cold because you know, everything was cold, but as soon as we got moving, after probably 15-20 minutes or so of walking, the blood's been pumped around a bit more. My feet were quite good. They were reasonably comfortable. Yeah, I like the toe socks. Years ago, I ended up getting a blister between two toes, and it was really difficult to manage that after I got it. You know, it was quite painful. So I tried the toe socks, and haven't had an issue since. So I'll keep using them until I have another issue and stop using them.
And you also look like a bit of a ninja when you're glassing.
Yeah, they're good for fighting. Yeah, so that I guess the systems, each to their own. The key is layering and using the right layers. And in the morning, if you're about to head off on a big hike, you're better off starting cold. I feel anyway, you're better off starting cold, so that you don't have to stop and strip off layers, because it doesn't take long for the heat to sort of build up.
And you want to stop that sweat build up as well. You don't want to start generating all that sweat in your under layers. Otherwise, as soon as you stop, you're going to start getting very cold quickly.
Yeah. If you only got one layer or two layers on that are sweaty, when you stop and you want to do a bit of glassing or have a snack or whatever, it's then easier to throw those dry layers on, and then you don't have that cold wind chilling you down with that sweat. So moisture management is a big thing, particularly in cold weather. In terms of keeping warm at night time as well, I know you said there was one night in particular, that really cold night, you struggled to get warm, and we had a bit of a chat about some tips to keep warm in the sleeping bag. One of the tricks that I discovered years ago was filling your water bottle up with hot water before you go to bed, and throw it in the bottom of your sleeping bag. So if you run an Nalgene, or I use the Hydro Flask Stash 1 litre bottle, the flexible collapsible ones, they'll still hold up to hot water. Don't put boiling water in there, but boil it and let it cool down for a little bit and put it in then. And just bear in mind that the air in there does expand too. And then throw that in the bottom of the sleeping bag, and it's a good way to put some warmth into your feet.
Yeah, I've never really had that problem previously. I have been cold before, but just my toes couldn't warm up for some reason. I did have dry socks on. I have got my down sleeping bag. I'm not sure if it's the age of the bag, the down's starting to break down, not getting the warmth properties that it has previously. I'm not too sure. I just couldn't get those feet warm, which is it's uncomfortable, and it's quite hard to get to sleep or waking up constantly just with cold feet. So need to work on that.
Yeah. Another thing you can do is wrap your feet in your down jacket, and then tuck them into your sleeping bag, and just add some extra insulation. Sometimes that works. But once you are cold, particularly in those extremities, it is very difficult to warm it back up without some sort of artificial heat. So without a fire or a hot water bottle, can be a bit of a struggle. Now, I guess the elephant in the room was the pack weights. As I've already said, I carried an embarrassingly heavy pack.
So let's be open, Tobias, with the listeners. How heavy was it?
Okay. The starting weight, the pack, about 2.5 litres of water, and my rifle attached to it, and the podcast gear was about 36-37 kilos.
Heavy.
Yeah.
But I suppose in comparison, I was at 32, I believe, when we weighed in. So,
and that was with the rifle.
And there was
with
the rifle. So there's only 4 kgs on top of what I was carrying, and you had the podcast gear, which I think you've weighed to be around the 3 kg mark, is it?
Yeah, just over 3.
Yeah. So we both were running relatively heavy packs, but I suppose that if we look at the conditions we were put under, or the conditions we encountered, a lot of the gear we took is justified. What are your thoughts on what items you could lose, or you think it was all up okay? Or
yeah, look, I definitely need to dial in my food. When we re-weighed when we got back. So what was mine again? I think it was just over 30, wasn't it?
Yes, it was 30.1 or 30.2.
Yeah, so I lost just, and that was with I think probably about a litre of water left as well. So I dropped about 7 kilos out of my pack in that time, and I still had a significant amount of food left. So food is definitely an issue for me, and I need to dial that in a lot better. I am out of practice, I will admit that. It's been, I think I worked out, it's been the best part of 5 years since I've done a backpacking trip down in Victoria. So definitely out of practice with what I used to take food-wise, how many calories I need, and I just didn't eat anywhere near the amount of food that I had. So I probably need to look at what sort of food I was taking in, and some of it was heavier items, and then how much, the actual quantity of it. I guess I sort of panic bought a little bit before the trip, and thought I needed, because it was going to be cold, I thought I was going to need more food than I did to keep my calories up, to keep myself warm and that sort of thing. But turned out I did all right on the amount of calories that I consumed.
I saw the size of your treat bag to ice, and I was very envious. So yeah.
Yeah, so no, definitely it's going to be an area I'm going to have to work on, and I'm going to break down what I took and what I came back with, and look at some other options. I know you had pork crackle there, which I couldn't believe I didn't think of as being a good alternative, and
nice, lightweight, full of fat, and a bit of a treat as well on the hill, so it was good.
And salty, so again encourages you to drink. So yeah, look, that's definitely going to be something I'll do again on another episode. It's probably break down.
That'd be good.
The gear that we took, the gear that we didn't use, didn't need, and wouldn't bother taking next time. I will say this though, with that 37 kilos and the rifle on the pack, I was really surprised how well that Stone Glacier pack carried it, how well it felt. I mean, there's no easy way to carry that much weight. It's obviously after a period of time it's going to become uncomfortable, and it did for a bit, but it was, I always felt it was secure on my back. You know, I never felt I was going to, I was off balance or anything like that. And when that Stone Glacier pack turned up, I looked at it and I thought, wow, this is really minimalistic. Like this, I'm not sure about this. And the pre-training that I did with it, I was very pleasantly surprised. I did muck around a little bit with positioning the lumbar pad to get it get it right. So if you're going to get one, you really do need to get out there and train with it beforehand to make sure that that's in the right position, because everybody's going to be different. I have quite a recessed lumbar, I guess, if you could say that. Got quite a curve in my lower back, so I definitely need a good lumbar pad there. Really, really comfortable to carry the rifle on the pack too. I'm not a huge fan of the quick release strap that they have, and I showed you that, some of the complications.
It doesn't seem that great.
I'm not in love with it. So I think I've still got it attached to the pack, but I just never felt it was holding the rifle securely. It kind of flopped around. It just didn't pull the rifle into the pack. And I know it's designed as a quick release feature, so you can, literally rip the thing off the pack and get a quick shot away. I do like the cradle at the bottom, and all I did was just use one of the straps over the fore end of the rifle on the side of the pack to hold it securely.
And that seemed to work well, because you really want that rifle to be secure. The last thing you want to be worrying about is that releasing. You're bumping your scope. I know you do run the scope cover, which is a great little piece of kit you've got, but you want that nice and secure so you don't have to worry about it. Your mission is just throwing down those Ks.
Yeah, yep. Well, I guess in wrapping up, one of the things that observations that I made to you yesterday was that it was obviously a good trip, because on the drive out we've already started planning the next one.
We have.
We did a little bit of exploring yesterday, went down a few tracks, looked at some other country. We can now cross that off the list as not an area that we're going to go back to, so we satisfied that curiosity. So we're going to do a bit more research now, come up with another location, try and find somewhere else to go for the next trip, whether that's later this year or next year. We're not sure yet. Just have to see how we go building up brownie points and getting the time away, being able to justify the time and the expense.
Because I suppose one of the challenges we do have is, hunters based in Queensland is, doing that research, trying to work out where to go, because a lot of time is spent on Google Earth or using different resources to try and build up an understanding of where the best spot is. So it was quite worthwhile yesterday just driving a few more tracks just to get an idea of the terrain in the country, to either assist us in a potential new area, or, like you say, crossing off an area from our kind of search list.
Yeah, Google Earth can only tell you so much. That boots on the ground, might look great potential on Google Earth, but then when you get on the ground and you see there's 8 foot of regrowth occurring, it crushes your dreams there and then, doesn't it?
One thing I suppose we haven't talked about, but you might want to do a standalone podcast, would be just the fitness aspect as well of what goes into a backcountry hunt, because I'm sure a few listeners out there would be interested in how you prepared, how I prepared, and just I suppose the importance of it. So
yeah, look, I like I said to you, about 6 weeks out from the trip, I actually pulled a muscle in my lower back quite badly. And I'd love to say it was doing something heroic, like saving a busload of handicappable kids from driving off a bridge, but I actually walked into my kitchen one morning and saw a dead cockroach on the floor and bent over to pick it up, and my back just went snap. And so for the at least 6 weeks before the trip, I had to nurse a lot of pain in my back, and I was really worried that how it was going to go. So I missed out on doing a lot of the final sort of prep that I would have normally done for this trip. So I was quite surprised actually how well it actually held up. Funnily enough, when I got out of the car at the car park, my back was a little bit sore, and about an hour into the hike you asked me how it was going, and I said it's actually feeling better than it's felt for the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So maybe a little bit of exercise would have been a good thing for it.
And how's it feeling now after the trip?
Yeah, no, it's been good. It's been good. I never really had a problem with it. So, and I wasn't chewing down Panadol like lollies.
Mm-hmm.
So Panadol, Nurofen. So yeah, no, I was happy. But yeah, no, definitely an aspect that we'll get to talk about, and probably be good to even get Blake involved in that one.
Yeah.
He's a bit of a gym junkie and works in the sports field, so it'd definitely be a useful resource. But yeah, look, thanks for sticking with us. Hope you have gotten something out of it. Please drop us a line if you've got any feedback.
Or any questions, any questions you want answered or assistance with, we'll, can definitely help out and I'll point you in the right direction.
Yeah, look, there's no stupid questions and there's no wrong answers out there either. Just something works for you doesn't mean it's going to work for us, but doesn't mean it's wrong if it doesn't. So, what works for us may not work for everyone either. Looking forward to getting another podcast done and out there, and looking forward to the upcoming YouTube videos from you, Jason. So just a reminder, your YouTube handle
is just LiquidAntler, and hopefully I've got a few videos coming up. My South Island trip chasing red deer, another one in the North Island of New Zealand chasing sika deer, and then also we're putting a video together, Tobias, of our trip chasing sambar in the Vic High Country. So yeah, looking forward to getting those out.
Yep. And your Instagram's the same?
Yeah, LiquidAntler.
At LiquidAntler, no underscores or anything?
No, just at LiquidAntler.
Yeah, very good. All right. Thanks for everyone for sticking with us.
Catch you later.
Hey, thank you for listening in. If you'd like to contact me for a chat, pass on any feedback, or have some ideas for future podcasts, please reach out to me on Instagram at Australian_hunting_backcountry, or email australian.hunting.backcountry@outlook.com.au. For now though, please look after yourselves and your mates.